Good morning, everyone. Good morning, friends. And happy Memorial Day weekend. My name is Vertus Robinson. I use he, him pronouns, and I serve as the ministerial intern for the Unitarian Church of Montpelier. And I extend a warm welcome to you on this spring day that we welcome warmly as well. And thank you for joining us in this time of worship from wherever you are. The Unitarian Church of Montpelier is a Unitarian Universalist congregation founded in 1864. We are a liberal, progressive religious community that welcomes all as we journey together, seeking spiritual wholeness and justice in this world that we live in. Whether you are a newcomer, longtime member, or somewhere in between, we are so glad that you are with us this morning. If you are joining us in Zoom, the chat function will be on for much of the service. It is a great way to welcome and support one another, to affirm the hard work and effort of our worship leaders, and to share good vibes and positive thoughts with each other. For issues and constructive thoughts, please join us for coffee hour after the service to share them there. And in order to hold some moments of focused and worship quiet together, we'll be turning off the chat before the prayer and through the sermon. And thank you to our virtual greeters who are offering hospitality and tech help throughout the service. Additionally, on Zoom, you can click on the live transcript button wherever it lives on your screen for increased accessibility. Today, we are welcoming the Reverend Mariela Pérez-Simons as our guest preacher this morning. You may remember Reverend Mariela from our broadcast of the UUA service, Loved into Being, that we aired this past March. And we are so glad to welcome her to our service. She is a graduate of Meadville Lombard Theological School, a former classmate of mine, and a great friend. And you can read more about her in the order of service, and feel free to visit her website listed in the order of service as well. We will also be hearing from two participants of the Chalice Circle that I recently facilitated, Owning Your Religious Past, which was created as a space for participants to reckon with their religious upbringings and integrate them into their current religious lives. In keeping with this month's theme of story, they will briefly share theirs. Again, a warm welcome to each and every one of you. And now, let us enter more deeply into our time of worship with our prelude.
I was just a poor girl, but my story's often told that way. Threw caution to the wind and spun my beauty into gold. Creation be my lover, and if heroes take a hold, and then the fortunes gather interest, let it be. Creation be my lover, and creation heals a bold, and so creation has the passion to throw seeds throughout the fold. My compassion turned a blind eye to the plundering of the gold, until the fortress was ablaze, so let it be. Stories are reality, and stories can be sold. Fortune favors not compassion, but the ruthless and the bold. Beauty yields her nothing if the well is running dry, but then creation shows a geyser neath the stone. Let it be, oh, let it be.
Thank you, Lydia, for that great prelude. And we'll be hearing more from Lydia with our postlude at the end of the service, so stick around. Now, our opening words will come from Del Waterhouse, who was a participant in that Chalice Circle, Owning Your Religious Past. And she will share briefly about her story and her journey.
I'm really grateful that I participated in the Chalice Circle that Virtus offered because it led me to take time to reflect on my religious past. I started out my adventures, happily enough, as an Episcopalian, where I found my spirit lifted by singing in the junior choir and through the familiar rituals. But as a teenager, I came to realize that the creed we recited each Sunday didn't work for me anymore. That was about the same time that I discovered the word agnostic and claimed it as my label. 60 years later, I would also call myself a seeker, and a blessed seeker at that. Over all these years, I've found so many sources of wisdom and support and inspiration. And I'm a collector of quotes that capture in words all that's going on inside my heart and mind that I have trouble expressing. One example comes from the Sufi master Hazrat Inayat Khan. Your heart must break and break again until it stays open. What a gift to receive that lesson at age 26 as my marriage was ending and my life was falling apart. I've done my best to live with my heart open ever since. And as I've made my way along the twisting path of my life's journey, I've found teachers and connections and gifts of wisdom all around me. Of course, it hasn't always been easy, but it certainly has been an adventure filled with grace. And that grace includes my finding my way 3 years ago to UCM. I attended a service and listened to words spoken and sung, and sat there in wonder and thought, I feel like I've come home. I can't think of a single service since that day when I haven't found myself at some point with tears welling up from my grateful heart. Readings and stories and songs and celebrations come from so many different and wonderful wisdom traditions. And social justice work is baked into the church's mission. I soon realized that I had found a church community that fully welcomed both my activist and my spiritual self. Not only that, but it's a community that invites and supports the seeker in me to continue exploring all the nooks and crannies and places of darkness and light that still await me and that dwell within me. Look where my heart led me. I've found a spiritual home. And more than ever, I know that I'm not alone.
Our opening song is one that Kenrick Kite has put together as a video. We saw about a month ago, and we loved it so much, we're going to use it again. Oops. My Life Flows On, an endless song, also known as How Can I Keep From Singing? So please join in along with Kenrick as we sing together.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear that music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing? I lift mine eyes, the cloud grows thin, I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway clears, since first I learned to love it. The warmth of peace restores my soul, a fountain ever springing. I walk with grace, since I am loved. How can I keep from singing?
That was beautiful. And I am Joe Romano. And let us now light the chalice, our symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I invite you to light a chalice wherever you are in this moment, if one is nearby, and if one isn't nearby, then light it within your heart. We light this flame, enduring symbol of our collective commitment to lead with truth and compassion. Please join me in saying these words of affirmation adapted from Universalist minister L. Griswold Williams. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Hope everyone is well. I'm excited to share with you a statement that I put together for the workshop I attended of owning your own religious past. And I was really excited to attend this workshop over the last 5 to 6 months. Ownership is a strong word because you have to face yourself. Owning your own path can be very challenging. Facing that path and seeing those directions can also be very daunting and can take a mental toll. And anytime I think about this, I think about Beauty and the Beast and how the father traveling to go into another town chose a path, and it was darkness and challenging, and it became angry and resentful. And I feel like I had done that, and I didn't want to do that anymore. I grew up Catholic, and I felt all I was doing was suffering, and I didn't like that. And I would see my grandmother, who had a very strong Catholic faith, was very peaceful when she passed away. And I thought to myself, I want to be like that when I pass away, but I also want to be like that when I'm here on earth. So I have been on this journey of finding my spiritual being, my spiritual nature, and I feel like the Unitarian Church has been able to provide that for me. And especially during this workshop and finding my own religious past, now I feel like I'm taking ownership. I have been angry at not only Catholicism but religion. And so what I want to put in the past is anger, resentment, arguing, any judgment as much as I can in the past, and I want to bring in that religious freedom that I feel like our country was founded on, bringing in happiness, bringing in joy, bringing in compassion for others, and being able to have a place of worship that I'm able to actually share similar ideals, but also hear other people's thoughts and spirituality, because I'm always open, and I feel like this is a place where I can do that. And so that's what I want to bring in. And so I'm so happy to be able to come to that ownership of moving through this journey. And I have so much more to learn. And I'm so happy that I can do that with all of you. So thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. Those who seek God shall never go wanting. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. God alone fills us. Nada de Turbe, nada de Sunday. Quien a Dios tiene, nada le falta. Nada de Turbe, nada de Sunday. Solo Dios basta. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. Those who seek God shall never go wanting. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. Good morning. Buenos dias. It is good to be in community with you this morning. The reading today comes from Starhawk, who says, "We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been. A place half remembered and half envisioned we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people with whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing, a circle of friends. Some place where we can be free. Each of us carries sacred foundational stories within us. These stories can be from defining moments from our lives that either shifted something in us or that hold special meaning about who we are and what we believe in. One of my personal foundational stories comes from the summer of my 18th birthday, when I found myself walking in circles on the church square of my hometown in Cuba. For the first time in my life, I was feeling the urge to go to a church, even though I had never stepped foot inside one before, and I knew absolutely nothing about church. But I remember exactly why I felt the urge to go in. I was waking up every morning with a heaviness in my chest that made it hard to breathe. I needed answers to questions that were keeping me up at night. And there was also this longing that I couldn't understand, but it was there, underneath everything. I was born 15 years after Fidel Castro had come to power, and like the rest of my generation, I was raised as a communist atheist. Churches had been forbidden in the early 1960s, and I had seen with my own eyes how Christians and Jews had been persecuted and marginalized in public because of their religion. So going into that church that day for me was risky and scary, but I still felt like I had to go in. It wasn't my first time going around. I had tried before, but I was too scared to go in. So I kept walking in circles this time, and I was asking myself, what if somebody sees me going in? What if I'm not allowed in there? What if they call the police? What if I'm not dressed properly? I needed to go to church because I wanted to make sense of what was happening in my life. This was the early 1990s, and our country was in the midst of one of its worst economic depressions. The Berlin Wall had collapsed, and with the dissolution of the Soviet Union, our economy also collapsed. Food was in such short supply, I would often faint from lack of proper nutrition. The shelves in the stores were empty for years, and because of the American embargo, the US embargo, Cuba couldn't trade with other countries. The desperation was such that there was a mass exodus by sea. My stepfather was also was part of a human rights group that opposed the Cuban government, and so my whole family was living in fear as well. So there was a lot going on for that 18-year-old self, and she had so many questions. Why did bad things happen to good people? Is there something washing over us? Or is there really no rhyme or reason to all of this that we call life? I had so many questions. That's why after walking in circles a few more times, I finally gathered the courage and I opened the massive wooden doors of that church, which led me into a world I had never experienced. That that scent of incense, dampness, all wood, the coolness of the air, the echoing acoustics, the light entering the high windows, the openness of the space, the symmetry of the architecture. What peace, what beauty, what comfort. I came back on Sunday and found several people my age, and of course people of all ages who became part of my community. The support I found in that Catholic church sustained me during my last and most difficult years in Cuba. The prayers, the rituals, and the community saved me in many ways. Thankfully, the government had reopened the churches around that time, although the stigma and the marginalization remained. That experience at age 18, that impulse to seek answers because of the heaviness in my chest, that impulse to make sense of life, and that longing I felt for something larger, those are some of the things that made me eventually go into ministry. That's a foundational story for me because it made me realize how much we need spiritual communities, how Sunday after Sunday, as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, Sunday after Sunday, week after week, people come to church with broken hearts. They need a word of hope, and the church has an answer. And if it doesn't, it isn't a church. And I agree. I was part of that Catholic church for a few years because my family had to leave the country and seek asylum here in the United States. And once I arrived in this country, in North Carolina in particular, where there is a different church in every corner, I began seeking a new spiritual home. I visited churches of every denomination. I visited temples and synagogues, Buddhist sanghas, and yoga studios. I climbed to top of the mountains and seeking a spiritual home. And it took me over a decade, but on a Sunday morning, I found that home in the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Greensboro, North Carolina, and I eventually felt called towards ministry. That longing for community runs so deep in our humanity. As that reading from Starhawk so beautifully puts it, somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. It's a very natural longing to belong. Dr. Gabo Mate, who specializes in childhood development and trauma, often speaks about how human beings are born with these two very strong needs that pulls us into two different directions, two opposite directions. One is our need for authenticity, to be our true self, to flourish according to our own nature. And the other one is our need for attachment, to belong to a group. And attachment wins most of the time. He says that that most of us as children begin to trade our authenticity for attachment and belonging. Our need to belong also comes with a fear of rejection, because we are wired to be part of the group. To feel rejected is what I call the definition of hell. When the gates of heaven are closed in front of our face and you are left out, it feels like exile from the Garden of Eden. The fear of rejection is pretty universal, and it shows up in many different ways. It shows up as unworthiness, that feeling that we are not good enough to belong, not good enough or proper enough or beautiful enough or smart enough or woke enough. The fear of rejection shows up in how we hold back our most precious parts of ourselves, the most precious parts of ourselves, our creativity, our voices, our true selves, our wholeness, because we couldn't bear having others ridicule, laugh at, or reject these most genuine, most sacred parts of ourselves. And all those feelings corrode our soul. And I think we need to look at them and heal them in our communities. And we need to be aware of how we exclude others and the pain and the trauma that that causes. So for me, it's been over 30 years, almost 30 years since that summer afternoon in the early 1990s when I first entered a church. And I'm on a completely different place spiritually now on my spiritual journey. Yet I'm thinking a lot these days about community and how we can create spaces where more people can find belonging and healing. And I am also thinking about how we can expand our circle of belonging. I'm interested in finding kinship in the natural world as well, with other species that share our ecosystem. Birds and butterflies, plants, trees, fungi, etc. How can we find kinship with the sun when it touches our skin? Kinship with the wind and how it comes to greet us and then it changes directions. I'm interested in expanding our circle of belongings to be in relationship with all of life, to be in relationship with all of life. Because now that I understand the importance of belonging, I no longer want to limit my sense of belonging in this world. And so I'm thinking, how can we teach all of this in our communities, our precious communities, communities that we have missed for over a year, communities that have remained strong and together through all the different hardships we lived through during the pandemic. Thank you for supporting this community. I am honored to be in this community with you this morning. And I'm so glad that you have this community, this place of belonging, because we need community more than ever now, especially spiritual communities where we can experience the sacred, where we can experience beauty and awe and wonder and mystery together, because the world needs more of that. There is so much ugliness in this world, and we need to look. We need to look at the ugliness. We must pay attention to it. It is hard and uncomfortable, but we have to look at the pain of the world, at its ugliness. And we must also come together to experience and celebrate awe and wonder and beauty, and the beauty that still remains. And it's good to do that together, because something almost magical happens when people gather in a shared space to share an experience together. In 2017, a study found that spectators in a theater, when sharing that experience, their hearts became synchronized and started beating at the same time. And according to the research, when a group of people are able to reach that level of heart synchronicity, trust happens, more empathy happens, friendships are built, there is more collaboration, and even social barriers are lifted when our hearts are synchronized like that after experiencing something together. And that's what we have been missing during this pandemic, the depth of connection from being in community together. So that brings us together. What else brings us together as a spiritual community? I can think of a few reasons why we come together. Let's see. We come because life can be messy, but also magnificent. And so we come to make sense of the messy parts and to be reminded of the magnificent. We come because of the ultimate and because of the intimate. The ultimate, the sacred, the great mystery, and the intimate, those small moments of connection with others. We come to church when we feel like a lost soul, like I did at 18, to try to understand the mystery of life, to find answers to questions that keep us awake at night. We come to church because of the longing, that longing for the transcendent that many of us feel. We might not be able to put that longing into words, but we come to church seeking it. Some call it spirit, some call it God, some call it love, but we come because we long for it. And when language fails us, when we can't put into words the vastness of that transcendent mystery, we have liturgical elements that satisfy that need to worship. We come to church to remember what truly matters, what truly, truly matters in our hearts of hearts. The poet John O'Donoghue says that human beings have an uncanny ability to domesticate everything they touch. Eventually, even the strangest, most exotic things become absorbed into the routine of the daily mind. I mean, we domesticate even our wildest dreams once they become a reality and we start taking them for granted. O'Donoghue says that only seldom does the haze lift and we glimpse for a second the amazing plenitude of being here. The amazing plenitude of being here. We come to church to be reminded of that. We come to church to be invited to grow into the truest, freest version of ourselves and to learn how to lead ethical lives for the flourishing of all. We come to church to make a difference, to have the strength of others join our strength so that we can do the work that needs to be done, the work of building better communities and a better world, not just for a fortunate few, but for all, for the marginalized and for the whole web of life. Some of us come to this church to recover from the disenchantment and the traumas we experience in other religious settings. Most of us come seeking a spiritual home, but what is home? What is home? Is home where we feel safe? Or is home where we can be ourselves, truly, fully ourselves? Where we don't have to pretend to be someone we are not? Where we can have the freedom to believe and to think in ways that make sense to us? Home is a place where you can have both authenticity and belonging and attachment, where you don't have to conform to be loved, where you don't have to conform to be accepted. We come to church often because of our children, because we want them to have the opportunity to be themselves, to be accepted, and to learn the values and principles that we teach here. And we come to church to grow, to evolve as human beings and as spiritual beings. And how lucky we are to have communities to be able to do that. How lucky we are to be able to go to a church and in a few weeks after the pandemic to be able to enter our church building without looking over our shoulders, worried to be seen, without the fear of being persecuted because of this existential need to find truth and meaning in life. That freedom is something we should never take for granted. And that freedom actually is one of the most precious things we have as religious liberals. That freedom is exciting to me. It gives us the freedom to try new things. Why not? It gives us the freedom to play, to expand, to diversify, to grow, and to evolve. To grow and to evolve as a denomination and as human and spiritual beings. So that is my dream for us. May we play, may we expand, may we evolve, and may we do so in community. May it be so. Amen and Ashe.
What a wonderful, powerful message. Thank you. Our closing hymn is number 1020 in the teal hymnal, Woyaya. And Woyaya was written in community. A group of 7 people wrote this together, and our friend Issei Barnwell from Sweet Honey in the Rock transcribed it. Please sing along and enjoy Woyaya.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 Oh yeah, yeah.
Our generosity is a form of love and gratitude. Our gifts freely given help us to practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation. Each month through the UCM Community Pouch Program, we share part of our collection with an important church fund or a community organization aligned with our values. During the month of May, our community pouch recipients have been the North Branch Nature Center and Vermont Interfaith Power and Light. Today is the last Sunday for these recipients, and your contribution to the community pouch this month will directly support their work. You can make a financial contribution today by donating online. Go to ucmvt.org or click donate to UCM. There are options to contribute to the general fund, which supports the general operating budget of the church, the community pouch, or both. You can also mail in a check to the church, or you can use our text to give option. Simply send a text message with the word give to 802-266-4848 and follow the instructions sent to you. We are so grateful to each and every one of you for your generosity and its many, many forms. And as we draw our service to a close, we extinguish the chalice and carry within each of us its healing flame, the warmth of community and the spark of hope into the days and weeks ahead. And as we do so, we'll say the mission statement of the Unitarian Church of Montpelier. We welcome all as we build a loving community to nurture each person's spiritual journey, serve human need, and protect the earth, our home.
Good morning and thank you. Wow, to the Reverend Mariela for that amazing sermon and to everyone who shared your stories this morning. I hope that everyone will be able to share in our coffee hour discussion of our air quality project. We're voting 1 week from today on June 6th. I hope you all received the announcement in your email about that special congregational meeting. If you're available, there will be a discussion right after this service. I hope you can join us. There's another discussion this Wednesday. There's also recordings on our YouTube page our UCM YouTube channel that you can watch a presentation and an interview about the Air Quality Project. For more information, you can also find on our UCM website, ucmbt.org. Please read our weekly e-news as well as our summer newsletter that will be coming out very soon in the next couple of weeks to find more information about a church-wide outdoor sing-along and other exciting June events. As we mentioned, Kelly, our interim music director, is on her way to Vermont very soon, so we'll be able to see her in person.
Beloveds, as we close our circle today, I want to share the following words from the social activist and philosopher Grace Lee Boggs, who said that building community is to the collective as spiritual practice is to the individual. Building community is to the collective as spiritual practice is to the individual. And so may we be intentional about our practices of building community. May we remember that we are stronger and more resilient and happier when we are together. And may we remember to never stop expanding our sacred circles of belonging. May we never stop expanding our sacred circles of belonging. Now, blessings to each of you. Go in peace, go in beauty. Bendiciones, muchas bendiciones.
try.